On this episode of the Layover Live, we're talking GDPR with Rankin. Hey, Eric, real quick.
Yeah,
let me get your consent before we start.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Man, thanks, appreciate it.
No problem, man.
Yep.
What's that for?
Double opt-in. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 18 of the Layover Live, where we bring you the top article from the Layover each week. I'm Jason Swick, VP of Digital Marketing, and I'm joined by VP of Product Development, Rankin. So Eric, thanks for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. And this is a really good topic as well.
Yep.
We're talking GDPR, and really I'm going to kind of change things up a little bit. We usually have our question of the week at the end, but I think I want to bring it up at the beginning because I think a lot of what you're going to talk about is going to touch on some of these things. So
absolutely.
So our question of the week comes from Kimberly at Visit Salt Lake, and Kimberly's asking, what are the key points that we need to know about GDPR regulations that will be taking effect soon? And what changes do we need to make to our sites now to ensure we are compliant? So great question there, Kimberly, and I'm sure we'll get to that. So it really brings me then to our article of the week, which is very timely, and it comes from Headquarters Magazine, which talks about GDPR and what it is. So I think that's a great place to start, is really informing folks on, first and foremost, what is GDPR?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Jason. So GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation. And for a lot of you folks out there that are familiar, CASL, which is the Canadian anti-spam law that came out a few years ago, is very similar to that. As well, Safe Harbor is the other terminology that people are familiar with. So Safe Harbor is really the replacement for that. And what GDPR does is address marketing materials and sort of contact and data and information of individuals in the European Union and its citizens and residents. So essentially, it's going to address a couple of things, right? One, the citizen being a data subject, and all the information you collect on a person, right? Email address, name, phone number, etc. Essentially, the principles are to ensure a couple of things, right? One is that as a individual, as a person, if I collect that information from you and I communicate with you, is that I have your permission to do so, and I collect your consent, which is things that you do on your website, for example, in your forms. And then once I have that information, is that I'm responsibly securing it and keeping track and managing it properly, including things like how long I should store it for and what I need it to do. Why do I need it to communicate with you, right? And then, of course, the third part really goes down to being transparent about what I'm doing with the information, right? So if I'm sharing with other parties, with other third parties, agencies, or other organizations you work with in order to communicate, that you're doing that properly and in a safe and sort of secured manner. And most of all of that law is just founded around the principles of what's going on with the data breaches that have happened around the world between with peace.
Seems like it's happening all the time, right?
Exactly. So it's nothing to be. While it is important to note, and it's of a these are regulatory nature. The other things that are to your question and to the viewers' questions regarding what to do, how I'm affected, is really twofold. So if you are within North America, for example, and you communicate with citizens in Europe, then you get to sort of look at, do I know who those people are, right? And how do I communicate with those folks? If you're obviously a European Union client, this certainly matters more to you in the sense of those are people you communicate with on a regular basis, and you just have to make sure that you can do those things accordingly within your region. So everyone's affected, sort of globally speaking. Okay. But it's sort of how you interact with EU citizens and residents that you have to sort of address based on where your business is located and how you operate.
Okay, so really something that really affects everybody and every DMO that needs to pay attention to. So really important. Yeah. So what does a DMO then have to do to make sure that they are staying in compliance? Right?
Yeah, great question. So the big three essentially are one, right, when I'm requesting information from someone, let's use a website example or form example, right? So I want to go and, Jason signs up, say, for example, for golf information, a golf newsletter. So when I go ask Jason for that information, I should really understand, what do I need to communicate with Jason, right? I need his email address, probably. Do I need his home address, his phone number, and maybe his age? I don't know, right? The answer is, if you don't need that, you probably shouldn't hang on to it. So am I collecting it for a specific purpose, and why do I need it, right? And then the opt-in cycle is the other part within the form itself, is that when I ask Jason, when Jason's signing up to get to say, for example, for the golf newsletter, is that what is he going to get when he signs up? So I'm very clear in the language about what he's signing up for and what I'm going to do with that information, so he knows. If he decides he doesn't want to do that, he can opt out. Yeah. And that's because you're putting on the opt-in. So opt-in must be much more clear than it was. It's very similar to Castle in the sense of boxes can't be pre-checked.
Sure.
You can't sort of default me in as we.
The days of buying lists are over.
Precisely.
Right?
It's got to be very deliberate.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So provided you have those checks in place and you store that information to verify that I have that. That's sort of the check and balance, right? So from a regulatory standpoint, I can verify that yes, you opted in. Yes, I have the data to collect that. So that's the first one. And then to your point on the backside, then once that data is in my system, I have to look at things like how often do I communicate with Jason about golf. If it's once a year, then I can probably keep it in the database. But if I don't talk to you, if I tell you more frequently than that, I'm probably okay. But if these are annual events of things of that nature, you must be very careful and attentive to the purposes for where you store that. And once you're finished in a campaign or finished with that information, I probably don't need to keep it very long, right? Now, the thing to note here, of course, which a lot of you viewers are probably going to ask the next would be then, what about B2B and business to business, right? I've got partners, members, third parties, etc.
Okay.
Well, they can be somewhat different. While they are the same as the law states, B2B versus individual. The slight nuances can be things, for example, if you pay me membership or there's some financial transaction relationship we have that's separate from information, that's a legitimate business and that's not the same. So I can keep your information, keep your records for purposes that I might need to go with other accounting principles or other accounting regulations that are dictate within my region or my state, city, or country that I address. So there are some finer sort of breakdowns there. Obviously direct, consumer direct, individual information is probably the most important.
Yeah.
But the B2B still has a role to play, and again, the EU and the law considers them to be treated in the same way.
Yeah, it's great, and again, there's a lot there, right?
Yeah.
And so anytime new regulation comes out, right, it's a big buzz in the industry. People kind of get worried about. So what are some of the ways that maybe we can help at SimpleView? I know you're all over this.
Yes.
But what are some ways that we can help at SimpleView?
Yeah, so that's a great question as well, Jason. So we're going to have a landing page published here very shortly that's going to discuss and break down a very significant list of FAQs.
Okay.
In addition to that, we will be able to provide a much greater list of FAQs to those who have more questions about it. In addition, we're providing the AMs will be given to distribute to folks a sort of a self-assessment list of items to go look at and verify that we've called out. Whether it's our products or services, or you have other organizations that you're using, anything that helps out across that, we're big on the community side of things. And additionally, in March, we're going to be hosting a 3-part series of GDPR specific. It really gets into the nitty-gritty. One about much more about the law as a whole and sort of what dictates what, and then other parts between the things we discussed: consent, opting in, how you collect the information, and then of course part 3 would be the deeper side of it: how I store it, ongoing communications, and how I manage information with my partners and other processes and controllers and folks of that nature.
That's great. Some good information coming along the way. So what's next then?
Yeah. So what's next? Really for folks would be, once we get through the initial period of looking at lists and the information is to then sort of reevaluate what to do there. One of the big ones, which of course you guys would be involved in the digital marketing realm, is going to be re-engagement campaigns, right? So the thing to note that's most important is for those of you that have people today and those individuals, right? There'll need to be a re-engagement campaign because folks just aren't grandfathered. Very similar to Castle, right?
Yeah.
So that consent's going to have to get reestablished. So if you'll have to work on marketing and outreach campaigns to those individuals to sort of go re-secure that information or re-enroll people in interests. But again, been done before, not too difficult. Yeah.
Well, great. And thanks, Eric. That's great information. Again, we'll provide some of these links in the description and notes below, so we make sure we have all of that for you guys. Stay tuned. There's a lot coming on this. Very important for all of you to be paying attention to this. Thank you for your time, Eric. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.